Hello and everyone, and welcome to Talk Together. Thank you for joining us this evening for an evening of talking about Dungeons and Dragons. I am Tom Jancis, and I'm going to be your host tonight. I'll be chatting to G, who you can see here, just will waving. And we're going to go through some enticing questions and adventurous anecdotes. What questions, you ask? Well, the dice decide. Now, before we kick off, the stream is going to go on for about an hour, depending on how much fun we're having. We could go for 2, we'll see. We're delighted to be sponsored by Hero Forge, Ultra Pro, and Elderwood Academy, and supported by D&D Beyond, Warriors of Waterdeep, and Level Up Dice. We are Roll Together RPG on all social media, and a massive thank you to our D20 Club on Patreon. Our shows are available as podcasts. Just search Roll Together RPG on your favorite podcasting app. Right, now that is done. Hello to G.
Hello.
Hello. Right, before we kick off, do you just want to do a quick introduction? Who are you? What do you do?
Sure, I'm G. I use he, him pronouns, and I certainly before there was a worldwide pandemic, I spent most of my time working in technical theatre. These days, I do a bit of that, but also I'm playing a bunch of D&D for Roll Together. I have been creating a lot of artwork for the majority of the campaigns, which has been awesome fun getting to visualize all of the wild characters that people come up with. That's been great. And I also write and draw comic books at a very slow pace, but I've recently, over the past few months, have started a comic book company with some friends called Best Shop Comics. So yeah, people should check that out because there are some awesome comics coming up, hopefully soon.
Very exciting, very exciting. Yes, so if you're ready, should we roll a dice?
Let's dive in.
Okay, chat, time to roll that dice. And we start with lucky number 7. So that is, tell me, G, how did you start playing TTRPGs?
I started not that long ago, actually. About 4.5 years ago, I had moved to London, and from Glasgow. I didn't know that many people, and at one point I was catching up with a friend, Ed, who also plays in various Roll Together campaigns. I was catching up with him and was saying to him that I needed ways of just meeting more people and making some new friends. And he said, I asked him to introduce me to some people, basically, that he thought I would get on with. And he suggested that I come along to Chris Hislop's house, just get involved in a game of D&D. Which, even though I'd known Ed I have now known Ed for like 20 years, so I've known him for like 15 years at that point. And I had no idea that he liked playing D&D. And so, we went along to Chris's. I created a character and played in a game for the first time and really enjoyed it and met some people that I liked hanging out with. So I just kept doing it.
And that's the thing. Do you remember what sort of character you played? What was the first? Yeah.
Yes, my first character was an Eldritch Knight, a dwarf, a mountain dwarf, forest dwarf, hill dwarf. I don't remember. He was a dwarf. Yeah. He had a big ginger beard, funnily enough, and a gruff Scottish accent. And his name was Captain Jack Package. And he had been the captain of the town watch in his hometown, but he had been out dealing with something outside of the town one day, and when he returned, the entire town had been kind of destroyed, basically, by a big evil dragon. Maybe a dragon? I can't remember what.
A lot of
some unknown force. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
So yeah, some unknown force had destroyed his town, and he blamed himself. So troubled hero that didn't like getting kind of close to people. But over the campaign, he found a new family.
Oh.
It was a good arc, I think.
I said we all love a found family in these kind of games, don't we?
Yeah. I was about to say another thing about him, but it might ruin a future question.
I mean, if you want to say it, then if we get there, then we'll just we've done it. Yeah.
So that campaign was very it included a ridiculous amount of people over the course of a year, and there was a session every week, but not everybody would be at every session. And so if we were in the middle of a battle, for example, and then we couldn't make it to the next session, then we might delegate somebody else to kind of play our character in the rest of that battle, and then make up some reason why they're not in the next few scenes. So yeah, Captain Jack Package got to deal the final blow to the big bad evil guy, but that wasn't me. It was somebody else. But I was still proud of him.
Yeah. So what, did you get like a text message going, you saved the day?
Yeah, I actually did.
Cool.
I got a message just saying, the evil guy's name was Dalgus, I think. And so yeah, I just got a message saying, Captain Jack just got the killing blow on Dalgus. Well done. I was like, cool. I didn't do anything.
That's my boy. So proud. Yeah. Again, a very exciting, auspicious start to this wonderful world. Thank you. Let's do another roll, shall we?
Yeah.
And we now, lucky number 1. And this might actually, you can link this in. So G, what is your most epic character moment?
My most epic character moment?
Epic.
It's hard because I feel like so many sessions have kind of epic moments in them. And I think one epic moment certainly was in a Roll Together campaign. And the first Roll Together campaign I played in, Forsaken something Seas. I forget what it was called. My character was called Sea of Swords Forsaken.
Oh, there you go.
So at the start of this year, and my character was called Nate. Had a moment where we were fighting a sort of big water monster. It wasn't a kraken. It was some sort of big kind of sea serpent thing made of water. I cast a spell. What was it called now? Like an illusion thing, phantasmal force, maybe.
It sounds right.
And I wanted. I think I'm now doubting myself whether I feel like this spell maybe actually didn't work. But in my mind, it was epic. I wanted. We were in a ship that was being attacked. And I wanted to just create something to basically distract this monster away from us. So I essentially created a little mini version of the ship with little replicas of us on it, but that was just being really loud and obnoxious. Now I can't remember if it worked.
But it was audacious, and that was pretty epic. Yeah. I don't know. Like there have been excellent moments of on I had another character that was we were in the middle of a battle on a train, and I had my character had it was a homebrew thing. It was a cigar it was a magical cigar that had a couple of spell effects in it. One of which was Misty Step. I was on top of this train and I needed to get inside this kind of there was a battle going on
inside the carriage. And so I just dealt with the thing that was on top. I think I'd thrown it off the side. And I needed to get inside this carriage. And so actually, I feel like my memory's rubbish, but I feel like I grabbed the creature on top of the train that I was fighting and hauled it off and let it kind of fall to its death. And I used my cigar to blow out a plume of smoke, and then using that smoke, Misty stepped inside the carriage. That was a pretty cool moment as well.
The utter bafflement of everyone inside that train as you suddenly disappear in mist. I think those are both epic moments. I think we'll take
Thanks.
that. You know, even if the boat one didn't work out, you know, it's the thing of legends. It's like, oh yeah, when that magic boat turned up and then the ship sank, but we tried. By God, we tried.
I know we did. The ship didn't sink.
Yeah.
I just can't remember if it actually worked in terms of distracting the monster. I think there was some sort of like legendary resistance or something it had, so it was just like, yeah, I don't care.
Just looking at that. Yeah. Well, I think, those, as I said, those are two fine epic moments.
Thank you.
Congratulations, gold stars. That's what we're doing now in this chat show. We're just giving gold stars out to the guests.
Cool. I love a gold star.
Love it. Just stick them up on your wall. Maybe you'll get a toaster. Who knows? It's new days. Okay, let's have another little roll. And that is, I was about to say lucky 15. All the numbers are lucky.
Everything's lucky.
Everything is lucky. Okay, so G, where do you start when you're creating a character?
I quite like making characters that in some way kind of not bend the rules, but sort of come at the rules from a slightly different angle. For kind of mechanically, I quite enjoy taking the sort of mechanical framework of a character build and then working out how I can sort of color that in a way that makes it not just what the rules say it is, if that makes sense. So, for example, I've got one character called Ulhar, who in a home game, who is a lizard folk with a lizard folk sorcerer, and all of her powers are lightning based, but not all of the spells I select are lightning based. So, but the way that I describe it in game will always be, it will be an electrical thing, or electrical. I don't know the word. Electrical thing that.
It's a thing.
Yeah. There will be some lightning that I somehow describe how that lightning has the effect of the spell that I have chosen. I think I swapped it out later, but I think I had fly for a while. And so the fly effect, I basically said that my character had sort of learned how to, because all of the lightning mostly comes from her mouth, and it's kind of intimidating people. There's a lot of like kind of growling at them with like sparks of lightning in the jaw. And so I came up with this whole idea that she can basically kind of spit bits of lightning into her hand and kind of like mold it all together and almost kind of create tangible things out of it. So she was able to do that and make like a set of wings that she can like stick on her back.
Nice.
And that gives her the ability to fly with electrical wings. Or her mage hand is more just like a little bolt of lightning that goes out and kind of does things.
Yes.
So yeah, I quite like doing that. And I mean, yeah, in terms of where I start though, I guess I just try and come up with a fun an interesting character that just isn't quite the norm.
I mean, that's for us personally, where you're playing a character where you're like, yes, I'm a ranger with my animal companion, but it's the animal companion who's actually where. Again, that's really interesting. And if you're trying to find like a quick thing, you're like, it's a magic, it's a swap thing, that same sort of, I think what you were just saying, that idea of like you're playing within the rules, but it's the fun of moving things around. And I think that's been the great thing of sort of doing that kind of thing where, you and other players who are like, okay, this thing.
Yeah.
But now imagine, but as you said, like when you were just talking, I was like, oh yeah, like electric, it's going to be like Iron Man, you're going to be flying. Nope, making wings, just that. And I find that sort of very, and that's been the fun thing about doing these series, having players who are like, yeah, okay, we're going to put our twist on it. This is what the world's like. And
I think that's one of the great things about the sort of framework that D&D has, that you can within that framework you can embellish a lot, and make something that the way that the rules describe it, that's not what it is, but that's who your character is regardless.
And so creating that uniqueness, the difference, where you're like, yeah, okay, this is how I do this.
Yeah.
And also the fun of just going, okay, explain to me how like this bolt of electricity is going to do this. You're like, wow. Just so much flimflammery, which is the fun of this game. Yeah,
absolutely. Just making up bullshit. But that's half the fun.
Yeah.
Or another thing though was the character I mentioned before, Nate. He came about just because I didn't really have like a kind of character idea, and so I was just looking at actually a lot of the things. The way I start a lot of the time is just looking at different character classes and kind of going, I haven't really played one of those for a while, or I haven't kind of gone into like maybe choosing a subclass that I've never experimented with before. In terms of Nate, I wanted to experiment with multi-classing because I've never done that before, and I just instantly kind of went with that. And so he had four different classes. It was a wizard, bard, druid, and artificer.
Wow.
And if I ever get a chance to bring him back, he will also become part warlock. I've already decided. And so like that kind of thing. And a lot of his sort of attitude to life, I think, came out of me kind of going, okay, well, I've got all these different multi-classes. And so I sort of built a kind of backstory out of, okay, why does he have these four multi-classes? And why did he choose those? Why does he have so many in the first place? Like, what kind of person does that make him? There was a lot of interesting kind of character stuff that came out of that. And like a lot of characters, sort of taught me a little bit about myself, where I was like, oh, I do that, right? Okay, yeah. Now I see how I've created this character.
That is always the crazy thing, especially like when we're doing something like this where we're playing multiple characters and you're like, okay, what is that common thread? Like for me personally, when I was like, my characters all seem weirdly paranoid about what's going on. I wonder if I have that too, where I'm just like, this seems too good, something's up. But I also just love the idea of what you just said, like Nate comes back and is like, by the way, I'm a warlock now.
Yeah.
So stuff went down, I've signed up. But again, the wonderfulness of this game where you're like, okay, warlock, but that can be so many different things, sort of like you sign up to a devil or the fae or just that.
And like even warlock is, I think, one of those ones that certainly from a sort of character and story point of view is hugely sort of malleable, because you don't just have subclasses, but once you as well as your subclass, it's which deity do you have a pact with, and what are they like, and what's that relationship like? And I think that can lead to a lot of interesting stuff as well.
Hooray for Warlocks.
Yeah.
We just get a little banner. It's like, Warlocks. Yay. Oh, lovely. Okay, here we go again. And it is... we talked about this earlier. Hey, G, number 13. What do dice mean to you?
Not a lot. They're random number generators.
Yeah.
I know that some people they love all of the dice, and that's great. I'm happy for them that they enjoy it.
That's good.
And like, I know that there's a lot of skill goes into making and designing dice. Having said all this, I did design some dice, or a die, a D20 at one point that I drew up a design, and I spoke to Chris about it, and Chris put me in touch with some people that make dice, and they passed my drawings on to their research and development team. Because basically it's a die that has, so inside the die would be like a sort of hollow space somehow, filled with a kind of liquid, a black liquid, but then also some sort of white liquid, so that basically it would look like a completely black die with no numbers on it, but as you roll it, the white liquid kind of shows through on just the top number. I think that would just look really badass.
Again, just visualize.
No way I have the engineering know-how to fucking build that.
So you don't have like different dice for each character, do you?
No.
You have your one set,
I have one set that I bought years ago when I started playing. I have another set that I was given as a present by my flatmate, and I have 2 random metal D20s that I was given. Was it a roll together thing? I think one of them was through a roll together thing, and one of them was something else. And that's all the dice I have.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same. I've got a set I had before, and then a set that was a gift, and then that sort of. I suppose you're trying to get into the headspace of other people, like, oh, is this my character? And it's like, this is the one that's closest.
Yeah, like, if it helps people do that, then yes, I fully encourage them to go for it. But I don't care.
Again, it's like when you're breaking down like superstition, where you're just like, yeah, cool. It's sort of
yeah. Like I'm not a superstitious person at all.
No. Yeah.
So,
but it's one of those fascinating things that you think you understand how someone's at, and then someone's like, no, don't touch them. They're, I've cocked them, I put them under the moonlight, and you're like, oh, okay, cool, great, okay. Or the idea of dice jail. This is a bad one. Yeah.
I mean, I don't have enough dice to really do that, so
maybe if you keep getting them, you're actually like, oh, actually, this metal one, I think that's
yeah. I've seen as well, like, obviously some people have, really intricate bags or boxes, or a friend of mine got a thing a few weeks back that basically it's like a dagger with like a sheath, and you pull the dagger out, and actually the dagger is like a tray with the different dice in it, and it's like specifically shaped for each of the different sided dice even. And yeah, that's a cool thing. Like, it looked like something out of Zelda. It's awesome. I don't want one.
I mean, if you got one, you wouldn't say no, but you're just like, I'm not going to go out and. Yeah. Agreed. Where, as I said, I've got my sets. So, sort of. Actually, I don't think we get into this on this, but for sort of the more home games, do you have your own minifigures? Is that something you've got interested in?
No, I have. So I have 3 minifigures. This one. So this is Nate, in fact.
Hi, Nate.
Which, yes, was very kindly provided to me by Roll Together after the campaign. And I have, I don't know, it's around somewhere.
It's around.
I have, 2 others that were gifted to me by my flatmate at the same time who gave me the dice. He likes to paint minifigures, and he's very good at it. In fact, hang on, I want to show you one because he is very good. So this is in fact not a character I have played, although I might create him at some point. I started DMing a campaign with my flatmates, all three of them, and so my flatmate created minifigures and painted them of his character, my other 2 flatmates, and so that I didn't feel left out, he made, I guess, a sort of DM evil wizard type, and so obviously he needed a giant beard and lots of long ginger hair, but yeah, he's very talented. Like,
that's really beautiful. Like, I'm looking at the details on that book where there's text,
like it's really impressive. So yes, again, like I'm kind of stunned by that, and I'm glad I have it, but I would not be going out and creating or buying minifigures for characters I create. Having said that, I do quite enjoy going on Hero Forge and just like building characters.
It is a great time, and that seems sort of like, and because it keeps updating, you're like, oh, what's it now?
Yeah.
Do I need a war drum? I mean, my character might want a war drum.
For me, the part of me that enjoys doing that is the same part of me that has always enjoyed Lego, I think.
Yeah.
Just that, I've got lots of bits to put together and combine and create a cool thing. But one of the things I always loved about Lego is that you make your cool thing, and then it exists for a bit, and then you go, right, I need to smash it all apart so I can use all these bits to make another cool thing. There's a transientness to it that I kind of quite like, I think.
I think again, it's like the dice, like the minifigures. It's all those things where you start learning about a person. Because I'm the same, that same, like, break up the Lego, put it together. Like, this is a spaceship now, or there is a dragon. This dragon's now in a submarine. But again, where you know people who are like, no, we must keep it. Everything must be together. Everything just again, different ways of playing with. Yeah. We're not judging, but we also do like
different strokes for different folks. That's all it is.
Yeah, we do like your long sword dice thing.
It's fine. Well, that one, it's fine as long as you remember to pull it out the right way up, because otherwise, upside down, your dice will just instantly fall out.
Just lose all the cool you got from drawing that. Grand. Okay, so there you go. For not having much to say about dice, we managed to, Okay, here we go. Rollity, number 4. Number 4. G, who would you love to have at your gaming table?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess
it's the dinner
maybe
question, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. I guess somebody that comes up with just interesting, slightly out there ideas. I'm trying to think of somebody like this. Eddie Izzard, maybe.
Should be good.
I watched a lot of Eddie Izzard stand up when I was younger, and so there was always I always liked his kind of slightly odd way of looking at the world, and the randomness of stuff he would come up with. So I think he could potentially build an interesting character, or I feel like having him as a DM might be a bit too off the wall. But
sure. But would be
them.
Yeah, to have them at the table.
Or her. I can't remember.
I think her mods. Okay. You can correct us. Yes, that sort of that energy would. If you've been talking about the idea of like playing within the rules, Eddie Izzard, just the chaos.
Yeah.
or maybe she'd just be really sort of like, no, this is the way we're playing. I'm a cleric. This is a,
yeah, possibly. I don't know. Maybe that's that. I feel like that's going to become a character now. I feel like Eddie Izzard often went on about jam in stand-up, so a jam cleric might be a character I'm going to have to create at some point.
I would love to see the jam cleric.
Yeah, and again, there you go. That's how I start creating a character. I come up with a random idea and go, shit, right, okay, can I build that? Can I work out a way of like fudging the description of what a spell is, so I can be like, yeah, no, it's not fire, it's jam.
Really hot jam, like,
really hot jam. It's just freshly cooked, so it burns you.
So actually, sort of a couple of Edinburghs ago, I had an extra ticket for one of the shows that Chris was doing, and I brought my mum along. Excellent. And my mum ended up playing as a tea cleric.
Amazing.
And with that idea of just going, and because she didn't really know what was happening, but just the loveliness of her just going like, this person's hurt, and she's like, I'll make him a nice cup of tea, and you're like, yes, tea for the tea god. Just but as you said, that just I'm sure you've had this experience as well, where you're like, okay, this is a really serious, really silly character, and then you're like, the most intense, serious, heartfelt thing. You're like, oh, this jam cleric, the things they've seen, but. I actually can't. I think that's beautiful, that idea, because again, like gifts of jam and just someone turning up and like, oh, thank you. Just watch out, they're going to throw boiling hot jam in your face.
Yeah.
Such a way to go.
Well, yeah, exactly, because jam is nourishing and can heal you, or it can really fuck up the bad guys.
So that's the sort of, as you said, that's sort of energy you want at your table. Sort of like if you were thinking, so like for you DMing, sort of anyone else you feel would be, particularly.
I mean, I do like as well, having just kind of interesting character moments, and so I don't know, maybe somebody that's, I'm trying to think of Terry Pratchett.
Oh, absolutely. Sort of straight to the heart.
Just I mean, so I think would have come up with some fantastically bonkers characters, but also would have woven that in with some sort of deep, heartfelt story, and also super silliness.
Yeah. Which is what we want. Yeah, they're just that. I do find it's quite touching that people seem to discover Terry Pratchett, and you're like, hey, did you know there was a dark side? You're like, it's all there. The anger, the kind of like the injustice, sort of. Yeah, which again, I think you realise sort of like as you're sort of like DMing things in that same sort of thing of just going, hey, that's not right, that's not fair. That's sort of again sort of like with the watch or the cleric. So they're just like, But similar, as you said, like with the characters you play, you're like, oh, okay, maybe these are the deep, heartfelt things that I feel. But I mean, Pratchett would be. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, yeah, just that kind of mix of taking a character that it's something I like in all sorts of media, really. To having a character that the sort of first impression is that they're kind of a silly comedy character. But then having them be kind of the focus of something quite serious, or using them to make a serious point, is something that I always find interesting. So yeah,
absolutely. And actually, thinking about like the way that Dungeons and Dragons is turning now, with the idea of like sort of not getting rid of like evil races, which is stuff that Pratchett was doing 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, I think more Pratchett, more silliness, more but real heartfelt kind of. And again, from that table you've created, that's a strong energy you've got going there. Yeah, Eddie Izzard and Pratchett. I think that's. So actually, so you're saying you're DMing for your housemates? Is this your first? Yeah. This is your first
So
time?
it's my first. That's my first experience of DMing. Out of my 3 flatmates, there's only one of them actually had played Dungeons and Dragons before DMing or before the game that I DM'd, and we've been pretty crap at. Even with lockdowns and all of us being in the flat all of the time, we've been a bit crap at actually organising sessions. So we've only had a few. But I've started DMing another campaign over Zoom with some friends, which has been similarly difficult to actually get people together. But we've had 2 sessions. I have a doodle filled in for the next few weeks, so I need to organise the next session. That's the bit that I don't like about DMing. You're instantly the one responsible for organising all the fucking sessions. Yeah, that's just. I don't like organising things.
Just people turn up, Just. Yeah. That responsibility. So how have you found the transition from player to DM? Has it been easy? Or?
It's not been as difficult as I expected, but I think I'm still. I mean, I have DM'd 5 sessions so far, so like I've still got a lot to learn, I think. But I like the kind of world building side of it, and I've got sort of a bunch of ideas of where I kind of want the story to go, and yeah, I've tried to, having watched a bunch of YouTube videos on how to be a good DM, I've tried to like write a lot of kind of backstory, and so I know sort of what the big reveals at the end of the story arc are going to be, but I'm sort of trying to leave it quite open in terms of how the characters actually get there. So I guess my biggest worry anytime I DM a session is, do I have enough sort of content in my head right now to like get through a decent length session? Certainly one session I did a while back that I in my mind I was like, I'm not sure they're going to get through all of this in one session. Like this might drag over, and then like an hour and a half in, they dealt with all the stuff that I threw at them, and I was like, right, okay, shit, better just make some stuff up on the hoof. So I just looked up some monsters and had them fight some monsters, because that was quick and easy.
Just simple, just throw stuff at them.
Yeah.
But then, of course, you've got the alternative where they're just like, cool, what's in that shop? What's his name? And you're just like, come on, How have you found that sort of thing? Do you have like a list of names? Just go, you met Steve. Yeah.
So the campaign with the flatmates, I don't really have a list of anything as yet. But yeah, the other one I've got, it's a sort of boarding school setting, and all of the players are like students at the school. So I've got a list of what different like boarding houses are on the school grounds, and I've got a list of who all of the staff are and what classes they are and what they teach and all the rest of it. Most of them are currently just like a name and what subject they teach, and I'm kind of filling in the blanks as the players actually interact with each character.
But then, of course, that makes you look very clever, because you're like, remember how I mentioned this guy? Well, he teaches potions. Off you go.
Yeah. I feel like at some point it's gonna get to a point where I'm just like, there are too many of these. I've made up too many NPCs.
They've all gone on holiday.
I can't remember what any of their accents are. Like,
again, as we said, flim-flammery. Just keep the plate spinning.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah. Well, to do a David style thing, talking about spinning or rolling.
All right.
Let's go again. That is number 19. Now, this is always an interesting one. If you could go back and change an in-game decision, what would you do?
Oh. 'Cause, 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 'cause,
Yeah.
Trying to think of where I really fucked something up. Because, like, 'cause there's loads of times where, like, you have a cool idea and you just have a bad roll, and so. But I don't think that. I think that's not quite there. It's not quite within the spirit of the question, I think.
No.
No. I don't know.
I do think it is, as I said, like a different sort of frame of mind where, for me personally, I'm just sort of like, the story is the story. That's the way it goes, sort of. But to go back and change like one thing is to unravel the threads of, completely.
Yeah.
And I think especially for this sort of game where it is coming down, well, something that is out of your hands, But of course, there is that sort of thing where you're like, I wish I'd said that to this character, or I'd picked up on it.
See, I'm not sure I really have anything like that, because I mean, I'm not somebody that in life I tend to not really kind of have big regrets or anything. I'm quite accepting of like, oh well, that was the thing I did, and some shit things happened because of it, but some good things happened because of it as well. And so I think I've got the same kind of approach to D&D. I don't really, I literally can't think of any times where I've like had a session and I did a thing, and then afterwards I was like, damn, I should have not spoken to that character, or I should have used this attack instead of that attack. Or
again, I think that's perfectly viable. I think again, it's that idea of, I don't know if it's sort of like, again, out of your hands. The narrative is, I didn't talk to that person and then they died. That's the tragedy of life. That's I mean, it's the similar thing about like using luck points, where you're like, okay, I think for me, like there's sort of like tides of fate or something. You're like, okay, that's the universe itself just going, nope. Also, just that idea of just going, hey, actually, I didn't miss. You're like, oh, cool, well done. I guess
actually, the only thing that ever comes up where I wish I'd done it differently is when I forget what some of my character's abilities are, and I choose to do one thing, and then as I'm waiting for my next turn, I go, oh yeah, they can do that. Shit, I totally should have done that. I'll do that next time. But then by the time it gets to your next turn, the situation has totally changed, and you're like, oh, that's not gonna work now. Shit. Yeah. I was playing a session last night where I forgot to I just forgot that my character had a 2-weapon fighting style, and so I had like a bunch of rounds where I forgot to add the modifier on to the bonus attack, and so I could have helped more in fighting the thing we were fighting, but instead I was just a bit shit at it.
I think again, you can argue narrative there, where you're like, we're in the middle of a battle. It's not. Oh yeah,
I think I generally do. Like, I'll come up with like they were not long out of bed in that fight, so I was just like, oh yeah. So now that my character's actually woken up properly, they remember that they can do more damage than they were actually.
Just looking and going, why didn't that hurt it more?
Yeah. Okay. I get it now.
Don't tell anyone. It's all good. It's all fine. I think, again, as I said, it's an interesting question because, but again, so like we roll the dice again for you yesterday, and you do 4 points more damage. That's the correct timeline. Yeah. I'd just love it if that's the turning point of everything. That's the nexus moment where it's like, G should have done more damage to that guy. So, talking about things being out of our hands, let's have a look. Actually, now that's a very interesting one. Number 17. How do you feel about fudging roles?
I don't really. So from a DM perspective, I think certainly in my experience as an early DM, I've definitely had to fudge rolls because I put some players in an encounter that I didn't really plan particularly well, and I'd chosen a monster for them to fight. It was a golem. This particular golem happened to be made of books, and they started fighting it. And I was using the what's it called, the combat tracker thing on D&D Beyond. And they were, they were doing some damage to it, but these were all level 1 characters. Maybe they were level 2 by this point. I think they were level 1. And this book golem had 193 hit points, I think. So at some point I was just like, oh yeah, it's dead. You've dealt with it, it's fine. And I think I did fudge a couple of the damage rolls, certainly. It was like, no, that's just instantly going to kill these people. They'll all be dead. And then there's just a book monster raging around this boarding school. So yeah, to for me, in my learning process, fudging rolls has been kind of necessary to not entirely break the game, basically. Yeah. So I can't really say I'm against them all the time. No. I'd like to preferably get to a point where I don't have to do that quite quickly, hopefully. But I haven't. I would say as a player, I'm against fudging rolls because that's, there's a lot of playtesting and all the rest of it, and I know it doesn't always work, but for the most part, the character classes and spells and all the rest of it are all built to kind of account for that and make it all kind of fair, I think. So yeah, I prefer to stick to that if I can.
I think, yeah, there's a real difference between like DM you and player you, where, as you said, like if you're starting with people who are just starting out, and then you're just like, as you said, you're like, and you're dead. Yeah. That was fun. And just like, again, I was talking to a friend who was DMing for the first time. He was like, just the goblin kept hitting so well, and eventually it's just like, it's almost like the goblin got sick and just had to lie down. And it's like, yeah, you did it. But like, so that player was playing a druid, but didn't realize he had to do spells, hadn't stopped anything. So that was the thing, that the DM was just like, cool, okay, that's just not something you had prepared. But yeah, I think, again, for me sort of personally, where sort of, I said there's two different sort of like DM player you. Again, I've talked to people who are like, oh, well, I'm very good at this thing, I should never fail it. And you're like, again, circumstances change, you might be very good at hitting the dragon, but the dragon just shifts. You haven't missed, you just sort of glanced off. And again, it's narrative again,
I think there's a sort of hierarchy of players, dice, and DM, really. Because like as DM, you're not just. It's not as simple as, okay, I've created this stuff and I'm just going to see how it plays out. Like you, or maybe not everyone, but I certainly I have kind of a plot in mind, and if at some point a character or two, like if they happen to die, then because of shitty circumstances and bad sort of, if they have particularly bad rolls and I have particularly good rolls, then I'm willing for the chance of the dice to let that play out. But if it's a case of, I've just built this in a way where these characters stand no chance whatsoever, then yeah, that starts feeling unfair. And nobody wants to play in a game that's like that, I don't think. So yeah, if in terms of playing though, yeah, I'm just gonna stick to, I built this character, the dice rolls are telling me how things play out, and I will just go with that.
Again, it's out of your hands.
Yeah, and if my DM has fucked up and created a character that I have no chance against, then I would hope that they'd fudge some rolls so that I don't roll really well and still die.
And then they look at you and go, it's a Tarrasque. It's
yeah.
What did you want from me? You know.
I mean, there's the other option. There's the other side of it of maybe you're a DM who have, like, if you've created a monster that is meant to be so powerful that the players just go, oh yeah, maybe let's not. Then, and if you give them the hints to do that and they still fight it, then yes, by all means, wipe them out. But that's them making a dumb decision.
Again,
that's not a dice thing. That's their fault.
Yeah, it's the flexibility again. It's sort of like being able to know in the moment and just go, well, as you said, where you're like, yeah, well done. You defeat the book golem. You know, it's like in video games where your health bar is always slightly better than it actually shows. So you're like, oh, you did really well. Oh, you had some few hit points. Well done. You know, just.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, computer games do it all of the time. Like, they are programmed to fudge probabilities. So I think it's okay for DMs to do.
Yeah. I think like with so much of this stuff, it's so difficult to just have this iron rule where it's like, no, this is how you do it. You know?
Yeah.
Horses for horses. Yeah. Right. I think we probably have time for one more, maybe two. Let's see how we're doing. That is that's a 15. We already did a 15.
Ah, okay.
That's a character creation. Interesting. So, how do you feel, number 5, how do you feel about cosplay?
It's very similar to dice.
Yeah. Not for you, just...
Yeah. Which is weird, because I enjoy Halloween and like fancy dress parties that are not on Halloween. I like making stuff, and so for the same reason that I like doing art, I enjoy kind of creating like a costume, but in terms of like cosplay for a D&D session, I can't really be bothered. Like, if you want to get some horns and put them on because you're playing a tiefling, cool.
Yeah,
makes no odds to me. If it helps you get in character, go for it. But I'm good, thanks.
No one's making me. I'm fine. You know, just actually sort of like as we're coming into sort of the closing minutes, talking about your art. Let's talk a little bit about, because you've been doing the posters for these campaigns.
Yes.
So what's that process like about being sent descriptions and your imagining?
So, when I started doing it, certainly we were a bit unsure as to, because obviously as well as the art that I create for the posters, there's the Hero Forged minis for all the characters. And so in terms of, we weren't sure how kind of copyright things and design, in terms of design and the look of characters and their kind of armor and weapons and all the rest of it. We weren't sure how all of that played out or would play out. So we decided very early on that I wouldn't see the Hero Forged minis. I would just get a description of each of the characters. And so I made up a list of things I need to know about each character before creating the poster, and the players fill that in, and I get sent it. I just try and amalgamate all of that together. There's always there's always like a bit that's sort of what the campaign is and sort of the general vibe that they're going for, and also what the characters themselves are like, what their temperaments are like, not just physically how they present, but yeah, kind of what their personality is, how they feel about, or just, I think my question is, what's their general vibe? And so yeah, sometimes I kind of do it as like them in a scene. Sometimes it's more of a kind of movie poster feel with sort of characters kind of superimposed on top of each other in a central group. And yeah, it's always really interesting just kind of trying to get all of those bits to sort of go together and in a way that's both interesting to look at, but also interesting for me to draw.
I mean, for me,
it sort of represents the campaign. Yeah.
For me as a player, where I'm just, again, that sort of thing of like, I'm just learning about this character. What are their vibes?
Yeah.
You know, sort of like, and that sort of, has it been a character that's been like, I realise it's a bit easy, like your favourite to draw, but then you were like, oh, I'm actually quite, I feel quite attached to you, new friend.
I mean, obviously the characters that are my characters, that's been, I've felt an attachment to them. Certainly one that jumps to mind is a character called Varya, played by Hannah. I forget Hannah's second name. Sorry, Hannah.
Raymond Cox. Yeah.
Hannah Raymond Cox, that's the one. Hannah's character, Varya, who is a Loxodon barbarian that swings her axe around with her trunk. And that's just really fun to draw. Like, big fuck off elephant with an axe in its trunk. Great.
And those sort of slug lines where you're like, yeah, big elephant axe. You're like, great.
Yeah. Who else has there been? Hang on, I will very quickly just remind myself if my computer decides to play.
Do. Your very old computer. It's doing its best. We believe in it.
Actually, you know what? Not really from a campaign. So as well as the campaign art, I actually designed the Roll Together logo with the D20 for a head. And so yeah, the series of dice heads that are used for promoting this little show, they're quite close to my heart because I feel like I created them in a way.
Yeah.
And yeah, doing them. I hope I'm not stealing thunder from somebody else. I think doing them all of the different classes as dice heads was my idea. Maybe I forget now. But yeah, I'm really enjoying kind of very slowly working my way through all of the different character classes with different dice heads, and they're really fun to do as well. I do them in a bit of a different style, which is quite nice.
Again, they've got so much personality, and you're like, yeah, maybe a D8 would be like that, you know. Just,
well, yeah. So yeah. The order I've been creating them in or drawing them is. I tried to do it in the order that those classes were introduced to the game.
Oh.
And so the original first edition of D&D was there was the fighter, the wizard, and the cleric. So they were the ones that got D20s for heads. And then as I've gone through the other more recent classes, I've been using like all of the other sided dice. But it was interesting, like, I have kind of gone like, oh yeah, no, the paladin would be a d6, because that's a big square thing, and that's, and I think the barbarian? Yeah, the barbarian was also a d6. And I haven't done the warlock yet, but that's an upside down d4, because that's weird. Sort of, like, it's an odd thing to, I don't know why, like, there's just something that the shape somehow lends itself to the personality, which is I'm not quite sure how that works. It's a weird psychological thing, I think, but it's there.
Again, that is the fascinating thing that when you start talking to people about that sort of thing, where they're like, well, obviously, it would be a D6, and you're like, oh, okay, something very completely different mindscape. You're like, it's a bit like, who's it? The guy who wrote Gormenghast. Melvin Peake.
Melvin Peake, yeah.
He was working as a sort of like in the accountancy during the First World War, and they said, "Well, you're taking so long to do this. What's up?" And because he had synesthesia, he was like,
right.
"Well, I'm finding 7 to be a very distracting number, sort of like, and 9 are just confused." And they just sort of leant in and they went, "Peake, if you ever tell anyone what you just told us, you're going to be put away. We're going to put you in a different job. You could go be an artist, just go off to the..." But yeah, that same sort of thing where someone was like, well, obviously, the strength of a D6 gives me a paladin feel on my chest.
Yeah, it's just, I think with the D6, with the paladin, like, it's, your standard typical paladin character is just a bit of a square. So that's a D6.
I was about to say shots fired for the paladin, but yeah, no. Your
typical paladin. Obviously, there's room to do whatever you want. You'd like, Oathbreaker paladins or paladins of like super evil deities, whatever. But
on the whole, bit of a square. Yeah. All right. On that note, that is our time. First of all, thank you very much to you, G. It's been a wonderful time. Is there anything you would like to plug?
I guess I will plug the next campaign that I'm in.
Absolutely.
Which is Halls of the Undermountain King. Hang on. I have a list. There's other people in it. Who else is in it? I'm going to screw up the pronunciation of Pav's name. Pavlos Christodoulou, perhaps. Pav, if that's wrong, I'm really sorry. Jonathan Scully, Liz Drake, Rebecca Hare, and Hannah Raymond Cox. Playing aforementioned Big Elephant with Axe. Halls of the Undermountain King. It's set in Waterdeep. That's where we start off, and I mean I don't really know most of the things we're going to have to deal with as yet. I've been given some hints, but I'm not going to give any more spoilers than that. But yeah, that's going to be streaming from the 24th of August, I think.
Amazing.
So yeah, that'll be fun.
And you're back as a cool one-eyed wolf.
I am. My one-eyed wolf that used to be a halfling and has a halfling that used to be a wolf for a companion.
They're going crazy.
Which mechanically is, it's not exactly the same as a Beast Ranger with companion, but for like 95% of the time, it works out mechanically the same.
That was the fun thing when we were doing the campaign, where it was like, which one of you is actually... He's hitting with the sword, right? Okay, so that's the attack. And I think the great thing is you were kind of blasé going, yeah, no, he's hitting with the sword. It's just that. I'm over here.
Yep.
Or that little bit where you got slashed across the nose, and you're like, that's painful. As a wolf, I know. I'm not fan. Yeah. Well, again, thank you very much. Very excited to see your new adventures.
Cheers.
So thank you for everyone who joined us tonight and being part of the show. If you have enjoyed us, we stream every Saturday from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. GMT doing this show. And D&D games on Mondays and Tuesdays. On Monday, 6 p.m., 9 p.m. GMT. Other times, other places. We're doing Flustered in the Feywild. Eat your pickles. And on Tuesdays, we are currently streaming Andor. All of our shows can be found at twitch.tv/rolltogetherrpg, and there is a YouTube link in chat. And don't forget, you can also enjoy us as a podcast. Many thanks to our D20 Club on Patreon, all our sponsors and supporters, and to steal David's catchphrase, stay classy at the table.